Congrats on the new record.
Thank you very much.
Before
I brought you a copy of my vinyl.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, and you told me something really interesting about the cover before we got going, right?
Yeah, well, my neighbor in Cape Breton since 1970 was the late, great Robert Frank.
One of the greatest photographers of our time.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I've known him since I was a kid, and we used to go visit him when we were kids. And I did an interview with Carol Ott when he passed away a week or so ago, and talking about how when I was a kid he'd sometimes stop and pick you up when you were walking to school. But I got to know Robert and June since the 1970s, and so for this record, I wanted to be a very East Coast record, and he was very much a part of the fabric in that community. So for this record, I featured all East Coast musicians, and Joel Plaskett produces the record, and Robert contributed a couple of photos for this record. Yeah, they're beautiful, and it looks awesome on vinyl, the front and the back cover. And the back is a photograph taken from his house in Marble Coal Mines, and it's stark and beautiful. And it's
really is. I'm not surprised that you said you kind of wanted it to be pretty East Coast, because I mean, knowing you as I have for a few years now in the kind of small world of East Coast music, I knew you were gone to Nashville for a little while, and now you're back home. What brought you back?
Well, we moved down there in 2010. It was basically a change of scenery. I'd been going to Nashville since mid-1990s to make records with my siblings, the Rankin Family. Mm-hmm. And then I started going down to write and then and make records. And we were looking for a change of scenery. Our kids were getting to the age where, if we waited too much longer, we couldn't go anywhere. We didn't want to be uprooting them too much. So they were young enough. So we moved to Nashville, and we really didn't intend to stay. And so a year turned into 2 years, and then next thing you know, it was 7.5, 8 years. And it was a really hard decision to come home because we were very much dug in there. And Nashville's a great town.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been going back and forth there yourself, so it's just a town for music, and we have a lot of wonderful friends there. So we made the decision a couple of years ago, and we came back, and now I'm getting reacquainted with the East Coast again.
How is it? Because it's complicated. It can be complicated moving back, I know, right?
Well, moving is, transition is difficult. I find it difficult anyway, moving, and especially when you have kids. And we've always maintained a place on Cape Breton Island, where I'm from, in the Inverness County area. And so we'd go back for the summers and Christmas or whatever holidays we could. But just moving your whole life, from one place to another. So anyway, we're back. We bought a house. We're all settled in and getting reacquainted with the community again. It's funny to come back and bump into the people, who are just doing the same thing. The same guy working at the corner store down the street.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm happy you're back on the road too. I mean, you and I were just talking about it out in the hall. 6 weeks on the road, man.
I'm out for 6 weeks. This is my second run with this album. I was out last fall. Of course, I do gigs in between, but I'm out back again 6 weeks. And I swore last fall, okay, I'll just do 3 weeks. I'll go home for a week. But no, I'm back out for 6 weeks. And after 3 weeks, you have to turn into a different person.
But it's what you know, man.
It's what I do. Yeah, I'm not complaining.
Because you're really, man, you're a legend. And when I was introducing you, it even shocked me when I said it's been 30 years since your family band.
1989 was we made our first Rankin record.
Yeah.
It was a black cover with a picture of us. We were very young and naive, and I remember when we made that record, it was independently made and everything financed, and no record company, no idea of anything about the music business, with some advice from some people. But we made it here in Toronto with Chad Erskine out at Inception Sound at Downsview. But we got the first shipment of cassette tapes. It was cassette tapes then. And now people say to me, hey, man, I have all your cassettes. But they're hip again. But Raylene and I went out in a snowstorm in a little Toyota Tercel, hawking them to gas stations and things like that.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So it's come full circle, actually. Here we are again.
Back on the road. But really, you've been on the road since you were how old? Like a kid.
Well, I played, the Rankins started making records in 1989, and we did that for 10 years and toured everywhere. But really, we made music since we were kids. And in Mabo, our house was next door to the local dance hall. And Inverness County has all these little dance halls, and that's where we that was our musical training. There were no music lessons or anything. So,
and I want to be clear that like it was the infrastructure set up by the Rankins that kind of made all of us possible. Like made East Coast music possible in so many ways.
Well, I think we came along at a time when there was something happening with roots music and Canadian music, and we just happened to have something that was unique and really good. And there were a lot of people, we wouldn't take full credit for that by any means, but I think we did help a lot because we signed a major deal with EMI, and they got us on radio, which we weren't able to do. And, Fare Thee Well Love, which was our big breakthrough hit, it was #1 on adult contemporary radio for 3 weeks, so it really blew open the doors for us and a lot of things.
Yeah, I think back home we know that in like the Lord's Prayer in the same kind of way, and it's still kind of going. I mean, the Rankin legacy. Not in addition to you being on the road and still writing great songs, there's also this. Take a listen. And that's Molly Rankin, leads one of the greatest bands in our country right now.
No kidding,
always.
yeah, and they're all over the world.
She's your niece.
Everybody, yeah. Well, she's John Morris's daughter, and funny story, Molly started out as a traditional trad player because her dad was a great pianist, Cape Breton Celtic pianist and fiddle player. He was a master at both. And so Molly started up playing with violin and mandolin and piano, and she, after her dad died, she called up one day and had us on speakerphone, and she played us a couple of songs, my wife and I, and she sang and played guitar, and I was like, "Wow, Molly, I didn't know you were singing." And she was about 15, I guess, and she said, "Yeah, I've been singing for a while." I said, "Well, and who wrote those songs?" She said, "I did." And I was like, "Wow, man!"
Yeah.
So she's a terrific. She's the real deal songwriter. So
whenever I see her, I always try to talk to her about the trad stuff, and I feel I can get it. It takes me a second, but she'll
she probably still listens to it. So
who wouldn't?
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of, in addition to this great new record, in addition to the gigs you have coming up, you're going to play a Rankin Family song for us now, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I am. This is, speaking of Rankin Family music, staying alive, it's like it's not actively being promoted out there because we don't tour anymore, but people still come to the shows, and I still play those songs. And
you're cool with that?
Yeah, I love it. Why, God, I was lucky to have those hits, back in the day, so, and people want to hear them, and they play them at their kitchen parties and weddings and wakes and all that stuff.
Now, how do you feel when you play them?
Good, because I'm like I said, I'm happy that you're lucky to have those songs. If you can have a song that people recognize across the country, and they're familiar with, I'm happy to play them for people. I mean, you play them for 60 shows in a row, okay, you need a little break from them now and then. But I don't know, I think they're well written, and I still enjoy singing them. So this is one that I wrote from the third album we did, and it's one that Heather sang, and it was the title track. It's called North Country. Do I have time to go over there and drop my D? And so I'm still learning this song, by the way.
Head on over there.